Welcome back to the Shuffle Squad. Zach Lesage here. Today we're going to be going over a tier list. I've heard some of y'all out, and we're going to try out going from S1 1.5 to 2.53 to S1 2 3 to make things a little bit more, I don't know, less stretched out, more direct, and we'll see how it ends up going. I'd love to hear some feedback on this video in the comment section. Give the video a like, share, subscribe, and we'll try not to have the craziest takes today, okay? We're gonna start off with just like the way that we're gonna be doing decks in order. Ancient Box, to me, is a deck that has not seen a lot of success in this format. We've seen the European International Championships, arguably and most legitimately the most prestigious event that we've had in our Prismatic Evolutions format. Sure, we've seen some other regional championships, special events, and we have a couple regional championships this weekend in Vancouver and Fortaleza, but something like Ancient Box, it ain't cutting it right now. I don't know if I want to put it at 3. Like, this is where like it'd be really easy to put it. I think where I want to put this, it's not S, it's not 1, it's either 2 or it's 3. 3 to me would be like completely unplayable, unviable. If we look in a format where Dragapult was one of the best decks, you do well against Cloth. I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm gonna have to put it at 3. I don't see a world where I can play it because Archaludon's a tough matchup, Dragapult's a tough matchup, Gardevoir can be a tough matchup even though you have weakness. So that's where we're gonna kick things off. Now, Arceus, Arborouge, similar case as Ancient Box. There was a few that popped off at the beginning of the season at online tournaments, but it largely hasn't converted to in real life tournaments. And it's like, Ancient Box is a deck that I day 2 to regionals with, just to give you perspective. You're like, oh, Zach, you're just a hater on Arceus decks. I also have a top 4 at a regionals with Arceus V-Star as well. Like, I love Pokemon. I like all these decks. I have most of these decks built here in Ultimate Guard Omnihives. I think we're gonna have to put this deck right here at 3 as well. I don't see it being super competitively viable for the foreseeable future. Arc, Dusknoir, probably going to be in the same case here. And I think the biggest reason why is because like I could see this a step above the rest, but like, again, we have almost no tournament presence outside of like local cups. And as much as like cups can be competitive events, we can't necessarily like look at them in the same way that we look at a regionals or an internationals. Like, you probably know a League Cup champion more than you know an international champion. And that's basically where I'm gonna put my line in the sand there. Arc decks just not really cutting it right now. Archaludon, I think, is a 1, and this is whether with it's without Dialga. It just top 4'd in internationals, seems well positioned. It's a tanky big bridge deck. I fully imagine a lot of people are gonna play it and do well at Vancouver and Fortaleza. Ceruledge, I think there's some hope for this deck to put it above 3. I know like people will be like, oh, Zach, it's the best deck. I feel like Ceruledge is probably the most misunderstood deck in the format. Not a lot of people are playing it, but it's not hitting for the same numbers that Dango is. And like, there's some world where I'm like, I feel like Ceruledge has to be better. Like, if you look at the attack on paper, but it does require effort in a different way. So I think I'm gonna put Ceruledge at number 2 right now. It hasn't proven itself at any major event yet. Right now, at least in this format, that's where we're gonna have to put it. Charizard, same category, wildly. I think Charizard's fallen off a little bit, dealing with Dragapult, dealing with Gardevoir, dealing with just a lot of decks in format. Like, sure, you probably beat Archaludon, and yeah, you beat Miraidon. Not really cutting it in this format to bring you to the 1 tier. Chen-Pao, bottom tier, unfortunately. It's really struggles to Badoo because your opponent can shut off your superior energy retrieval. I know that you could say like, oh yeah, but Dragapult plays rare candy, that struggles to Badoo as well. Well, here's the case. Your opponent can knock out your opponent with Dragapult really quickly. And it's the same way that Chen-Pao has not been super competitively viable for the past like few months. Conkeldurr largely has not lived up to the hype this format. I had it built in real life. I actually just recently took it apart, which hurt because I found all my Conkeldurrs in real life. Some really cool decks. Like, tier 3 is probably going to have some of the most coolest decks available in format, but not just really cutting it. Covered like almost like 8 decks, 10 decks out of like 40. So I'm gonna take a sip of the advanced GG. Shameless plug here, TSS, this YouTube channel is sponsored by Advanced GG. So check out our description if the product's right for you. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I really like it, and I'm drinking their blackout flavor, which is kind of a grape kind of thing. I like grape. It's really bad. I drink these like, I kind of sit them and just make content and sip them all day. Charizard Terapagos, definitely lower than Charizard. I don't see it in this format. It saw some success at LAIC months ago, and we're talking months. Like, the format drastically changes month to month, and even like it drastically changes week to week. Miraidon was the best deck in the format if you asked me 2 weeks ago. Now it's not. So we're gonna put that there. Dragapult Dusknoir, easy S tier. Just came second place at the European International Championships. The most successful deck out of all of them. It's got to be up at the top. I fully, like, be expected, be ready to run into this deck. Dragapult Thorns. Ooh, I'm gonna have to put it at 2. I think like it's better than 3 in a lot of cases. Like, there's some use cases to play it, and like there's like kind of like Lugia is coming back a little bit. So I think having Thorns is kind of hot. Not like crazy about it though. And that's why I'm gonna put it at number 2. Dragapult Pidgeot, this deck, it just fell off. There's just more just Dragapult, like straight Dragapults. And I'm probably gonna update my icons again to just like adjust for some of these other decks, like just straight Dragapult or straight Archaludon, without being the full text out versions. Or maybe I'll make it a little bit more broad and just be like Dragapult decks in general. So let me know what you think about that in the comments. For Alligator, I'm going to put here at 2. It did win the Champions League. It's seen some slivers of success in this format. It is kind of cool when it comes down to it. Not like crazy though. So we're going to put it there. Festival lead, definitely 3. Not cutting in this format. Hasn't cut it since like Twilight was first revealed. Frostless Monkey Dory, same case. You can see like there's just a lot of like fodder decks. Same thing with Future Box. Like, there's just a lot of decks that just can't keep up when you start getting to the S and 1 tier. And while they could be good in their own tier, or they could be good on the PTCG live ladder, or they could be good at your local league, when we account the overall metagame and the way that it's shifting, which is how I rank these tier lists, that's where those decks are kind of like struggling. Gardevoir, it's like 1.5, so I'm gonna put it here. I couldn't put Gardevoir at number 2. I think that's doing it too dirty. Gardevoir is like falling off a little bit. I think it's one of those decks where like players are going to continuously try, but when you have players like Henry Chow, they've won 2 regionals with Gardevoir, not playing Gardevoir anymore, I could see Gardevoir falling off a little bit. Gouging Fire, I gotta put it at 2. I think it's just like, it's okay in the format. It's inconsistent, but when it works, the deck is bonkers. There's some issues with it though, for sure. And I think like anyone else who talks about it, like, I'll give you real, like, I won a League Cup with this deck earlier this season. I was so close to playing it at the Latin American International Championships in Sao Paulo. Gouging Fire is just not it right now. It could win the regionals and it still wasn't it. It's just a player having a really good run. And the deck's good enough to have a really good run. But when you're not having a really good run, have fun not making day 2, or have fun at the bottom of day 2. It might be like, look, day 2 is fantastic. I want to make day 2. I want to make day 2. But it's not fun when you go from having a record that you can't catch at the regionals. That's whatever. I like, catching out of regionals is tough for anyone, even professional players nowadays. But if you're at the point where you're like, hey, you want to know what? This is a record last season where I could have gone 6-3 and got the same amount of championship points. That's where our day 2s are. Our day 2s are almost as big as regionals, or they're bigger than regionals that we had in 2018. So when you're having a day where you go 0-4 and you have no opportunity to advance, and you're like, cool, I played Pokemon for 4 hours and didn't get there. I think Gouging Fire is the day where like, that's a deck that could put you at the bottom. And I've seen a lot of top players play Gouging Fire. The deck, it feels so good, but it's just a trap. I know I'm running into tangents, but I appreciate y'all watching my channel. Dragapult, Charizard, I'm gonna put out 1. I think this deck is like half a real deck, half not really played. Like, it's just an extension of Dragapult. but like it's better than other Dragapult variants that I have on here, so I'm gonna put it at 1. It's a tier list. We're gonna try to break it up and make it whatever. It's there. Guldango, number 1, just top 4 the IC. I think it might fall off a bit, but like that doesn't mean that it's not well positioned. Hydreigon, number 3. Just not really seeing the success that it deserves, whether it's from players not playing it. Like, I mean, toward Rekliv, and a handful of other top players play this towards Toronto Regionals. I know we're getting back to like late December, but they all didn't really do well with Hydreigon. That tells me enough in format that no one's really playing it. Hydreigon's not doing well. Let's wait to see if this deck cooks post-rotation. Iron Thorns, we're going to put at 2. I think it's like okay. It's one of those decks where like players can dodge some tough matchups and have a deep run. Certainly a little bit more to cook there. Like, it's in the same thing as Gouging Fire. Like, it's just not like... I don't know. Any deck in 2 could like literally win the regionals, but the next one you could like literally go 0-4 drop. Lost Zone, we're gonna put at 1. I think Lost Zone's cooking outside of its Dragapult matchup. Cloth Terapagos, I actually have to put at I'm just gonna put it at 1 as well. I don't think it's S. I think it's like close to S, but like still some inherent inconsistencies with this deck. Lost Zone Tina, deck fell off. We're gonna put it at 3. It was okay at the beginning of the format, not really cutting it. Lugia, I'm gonna move Lugia to 1. I don't think it's S tier. And you'll see, like, I think S tier is gonna be pretty like holy when it comes down to it. Lugia is on its way up because Miraidon's on its way down. Speaking about Miraidon like was S tier, now it's gonna be 1. It's like fine, but it's closer to like 2 than it is 1, but I can't put it at 2. Palk Dusknoir, I think there's like some hope for this deck. Has some decent matchups into a lot of other decks, but like it's only like half cooking right now. Palk Terapagos just down, not really cutting it. Pidgeot Control, I want to put at 1, but no one really saw a lot of success with it. I'm gonna put it at 2. This is one of those decks where like I feel like Pidgeot Control, it's like it's either one of these. It's not S. It's never gonna be S. Like, you could win the tournament with it and you're just like 1 player, right? Like, that's what we see with All Out Blitzel, and they're a fantastic Pidgeot Control player. I'm really thinking about this one in real time. Like, I'm looking at some of these decks and like there's certainly some options to win against them. I think there's also some decks that just I gotta put it at 2 right now this week. It's just not popping off. I don't expect a lot of people to play it. Those are not the makings of a tier 1 deck. Raging Bolts, 2. Not necessarily cutting it as we want. Pidgeot would have been 1.5 if we put it on my regular tier list, by the way. Drago, I think there's some options there. Could pop off a little bit, but not really cutting it. Gigas, not cutting it. Roaring Moon, same thing with like a lot of these other like aggressive decks could do well. Snorlax, I think, is 1, definitely like on its way up. Terapagos Dusknoir, not cutting it. And then Wallstall, I think it's cutting it a little bit above. You can see I only think there's 1 tier S deck, and that's Dragapult Dusknoir. To me, it's just the best deck in format. All the other decks are revolving around it. Not to say that they can't beat it. Like, Archaludon has a decent matchup. Dango has a decent matchup, but they all struggle a little bit more, where Dragapult's a little bit more even. So it's just generally you're going to be your best deck in format. And then there's a lot of decks that just like kind of semi-exist within their own localized metagames. But this is really where I think this is actually pretty accurate. I think I like almost the S1, 2, 3 more than putting it at S1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. Maybe this is a hot opinion, maybe it's not. I think it's like pretty like leveled as we approach Vancouver regionals. These seem like a pretty solid use of the tier list in my opinion. But let me know what your opinion is in the comments below, and if you're trying to let's spark a discussion. But I appreciate everyone who's watching this. Tomorrow we should have a deck profile video going up, and then Friday rounding out with a top 10 best decks of the week. I'm going to be at Vancouver Regionals, so if you see me out there, be sure to come up and say hi. I have this thing where sometimes I look busy. I'm not always as busy as I look, so come up and say hi. Even if you're like interrupting, you're not interrupting, like just like come up and say hi. I love meeting people, especially those who support this content. And if you're trying to up your game, probably don't have any slots for Vancouver Regionals, but if you're trying to prepare for Atlanta or just in general, hit me up for a coaching session on metafy.gg/@zaclasage. I'll catch up with all y'all later. Peace out and have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed the content that we have today, and maybe you'll click on one of these other videos, enjoy those videos too. If you haven't already, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what video you want to watch next. Until next time, we'll catch up with all y'all later. Have yourself a great day.